Chapter 18. The next assignment. The gift. Pressure. Brianna sat in the small room, alone, waiting for her review. Up until now, life as an angel had shown her the many wonderful aspects of life. She had gone on many tasks, most of which were accompanied by her mentor, Athenius. Brianna had learned much in the last several years, taking in his guidance and knowledge of what being an angel was truly all about. There was a lot of work involved in helping and assisting beings from all over creation. Prayers needed answering, and the faithful needed their protection. Obstacles before deliverance were almost impossible to overcome at times. Every so often, such tasks overwhelmed Brianna, pushing her emotional limits to the edge of reason. For not all of the Creator's children accepted heavenly beings into their lives. There were places of unmentionable horrors she had seen, people of utter ruthlessness she would have hoped never to encounter again. Yet she had done what was needed, her tasks completed to the best of her abilities. Now she waited. Her performances were not what she would have deemed spectacular, though. There were many struggles, and many times she had thought that she might never succeed. Brianna reflected on her time with Duran the Harbinger. She accompanied him one time to relay a message of forbearance to the planet Uruon. It was here she bore witness to a planet full of beings whose sole purpose was to live in a corrupt society built upon debauchery and lies. Heaven was to smite those who did not heed the warnings of justice they were delivering. None of the residents paid any attention to what the Harbinger had to say. Brianna could not understand why so many were willing to throw their lives away for something so meaningless, to bring harm to so many, while reaping profits for themselves instead of repenting their sins. The jealous envy of the people scared Brianna into a panic as she observed acts of torture and murder, while others exacted their own malicious justice on those who had fallen. She did not understand. She could not understand. Never in her life had she ever come into such transgressions of the soul. She had watched in agony as an entire planet fell to waste by the power of the Creator. The world was set afire. Many angels from all over existence gathered to do his bidding. All the evil from the planet was wiped clean and placed upon the doorstep of hell. Their judgment had come. Their existence no longer tolerable in the realm of mortals. Brianna cried, falling into an agony of despair. She just couldn't help it. No other event in her life, save one, had pushed her into such extreme emotions as this. Duran carried her back to heaven, the horrors of what had been done stunning her heart. It was a moment she would never forget for as long as she would exist. But that was so long ago, and she had learned so much since then. Since completing that fateful task, she could tell her heart and soul had hardened with each mission thereafter. She prided herself at not being so emotional all the time since then, even though Athenius had told her on a number of occasions that it was in no way a sign of weakness. "You have the gift of unconditional love for all," he would tell her. Sometimes it felt more like a burden rather than a gift. Nevertheless, she had made it through. Although it may not have led her to a position she was comfortable with, it still gave her the appropriate knowledge needed to carry her to the next task. The far door opened and closed. Athenius looked at Brianna as he stepped through. He smiled, although she could tell he was not sure about something. He was troubled. Her spirit began to fall, knowing that it had something to do with her. Athenius sat opposite her at the small table, organising some of his paperwork as he settled into the chair. "Hello, Brianna. I hope you are doing well." "Yes, thank you," she nervously replied. Athenius browsed over some of his notes. He sighed, looking at Brianna once again. The look on his face did little to provide any form of easement to her soul. "You have been on some tough assignments in the past," he started. Assisting the Harbinger? That was a tough one. You have helped me collect future angels from the tranquil sea. You have helped the relief angels in cleaning and maintaining existence, and you have even done some service with the scholars, sorting through the many letters of passage sent to those who follow the path of light. It seems as if you have done so much since I've first taken you under my tutelage. Brianna silently agreed. It was a lot, at least as far as she was concerned. It had taken her many years to learn each position, let alone be ready enough to start working at them. There was a great sense of satisfaction in fulfilling each task she was assigned, even though she may not have met certain expectations all of the time. She did everything that was asked of her. Yet it did not change the fact that there was still concern on Othenius's face. He hesitated, reading something that Brianna could not quite see. "You have something else for me? Something that troubles you?" Athenius raised his eyes to her. Was his concern that obvious? He smiled, for there were few students he could remember that were ever as observant as she was. Even fewer of those expressed concern for others over themselves as she did. "I have a rather unique request," he began, this one coming from very high up the chain of command. "This is to help in the recovery of a lost soul from the realm of uncertainty." Brianna blinked in wonderment. "The realm of uncertainty?" she asked in confusion. "I have never heard of such a place before." "Yes, I believe on Earth it has a different name," he replied to her. "I believe you may know it better. As purgatory." Brianna flinched with surprise. "Oh," she exclaimed, "we are to recover a lost soul from there?" "Yes," Athenius replied. "Your name was requested for this one. It seems as if someone has taken an interest in what you have done up until now. However, I will not lie that I am worried for you. This will not be an easy venture." A small lump swelled in Brianna's throat as her own worry began to rise. Why me? For the first time, she had questioned the choice of herself on a mission. Athenius stared at her with even greater concern. "You have never questioned your assignments before," he stated, unable to contain his surprise. "What troubles you, child?" Brianna bowed her head, feeling as if maybe her heart would sink down to her feet. "I wonder if there may have been a mistake in my selection to be an angel," she expressed. Brianna's eyes welled with tears, as she could not hold back her fears of doubt any longer. Athenius noticed the hardship that fell upon her. He had seen it many times before, when students would doubt themselves or question the decision of their acceptance. "Why does anyone want to be an angel?" he replied. "If not for the love we can give to others and help those in need, yet still hold dear all that we do, for we know it is in the best interest of everyone for us to do what is requested for the greater good. To tell you the truth, I have come across some young ones who even I have questioned why they have come to us. But it is not my place to judge the reasons for why they have been chosen. For even the ones who have had the most difficult of times have gone on and prospered to whatever they were destined to be." "Brianna," he said, waiting for her to look up at him. She lifted her head, seeing the warm caring in his eyes. Her cheeks reddened as the feelings of anxiety slowly waned. "Brianna," he said again, "I have never thought once that you could not do the tasks that have been assigned to you. You have always found a way to accomplish your goals, regardless of the outcome. Despite how you may feel otherwise, you have done all that has been asked, and I am very proud of you." Brianna's smile was faint, yet sincere. It helped to hear those words, even though she may have felt otherwise. "But you are concerned that I may not be able to do this next task? Am I right?" Athenius lifted his eyebrows. "My concern is for the safety of my student," he replied. "I cannot remember the last time a special request was made like this, for such a complex assignment. So, yes, I am very concerned for you. It is not my policy to take a student into such a desolate place, not unless I have to." Brianna nodded, as she was beginning to understand. "Thank you for your concern," she replied. "I just thought that maybe my performances haven't met your expectations." Athenius shook his head. "The only expectations they haven't met are your own," he reassured her. "You have lived up to all of mine. Do not be too hard on yourself, for the task is not in the goal, but in the effort. That is what is expected." Brianna's heart leapt. She had forgotten those simple words he had spoken to her long ago. "Thank you," she told him. "I hope that this one will go as well as you could hope." "You have exceeded even my expectations," he replied with a nod. "But I need to remind you of the dangers surrounding such a task. The realm of uncertainty is not a place to take lightly. There are many unexplainable things there, most of which binds a grieving soul to wander aimlessly through their past misfortunes. They become lost, not knowing where to go because they are entrenched by so much grief and pain in their lives. It is a difficult thing to overcome, not being able to join those who have moved on in the afterlife. It is a loophole of sorts, where souls live out their worst fears over and over again, not realizing that they are in a perpetual circle of suffering for which, to them, they cannot escape. This place takes the form of what we feel contains us, for once you feel trapped, you are trapped. Do you understand?" Brianna hesitated for a second. She remembered long ago the mention of such a place from back in the church services she attended as a little girl. The preacher would talk about a place where your soul would go if you did not follow the love in your heart and do what was asked of you. It always appeared to her that purgatory was one step closer to damnation than it was salvation, which confused her. How is it possible that a soul can be redeemed from such a place? Athenius smiled. "That is a good question," he replied. "One that requires an answer that I may not be able to give you. Let me say this. Souls are not bound to any one path. They can choose the destiny that lay in their hearts. There have been cases where those who have walked the path of light stray and fall into the pit of despair. That is the easy way to lose oneself, to follow a course that only leads into darkness. But once in a while, there are those who come back to us, who see where their life choices have taken them. They turn back to the light, redeeming themselves to follow that which leads them to a life of peace. It does not happen very often, I'm afraid, but it does, and for that I will always be grateful. For we can never have too many among us to help carry on the ways of the light." Brianna sat in thought. She understood the importance of what the mission involved, but she still could not believe that they were asking for her. "Then this is a task for the Guardians," she suggested. Athenius shook his head. "No, it will be just the two of us," he told her. "I feel we should be all right, although there will undoubtedly be demon activity where we are going. We'll have to pray that they aren't looking for the one we are." Brianna's heart skipped a beat. Demons. She had seen them before, but had never faced one. Just the mere thought of them sent goosebumps along her shoulders. It scared her to think of what it might have been like if she were to go about this one alone. She was thankful that her teacher would be accompanying her. This time, anyway. "All right," she said as confidently as she could. "When do we go?" Athenius beamed a smile. He was happy to see her acceptance of the mission. With a slight nod, he rose from his chair. "Soon," he replied. "But first, I have a surprise for you." Athenius reached around his robe and pulled out a small circular object the size of his fist. Brianna's eyes grew wide as she had no idea what it was. The globe was pure white, reminding her of the snow that fell during the winter-time long ago. A dim light glowed from within, giving her the impression that it was alive. Athenius placed the globe on the table before her. A low, heavy thud sounded throughout the room. It did not roll around, but remained still and in place, despite its circular form. "What is it?" she breathed in astonishment. Othenius put his hand over the globe. His lips began to move, as if whispering a small prayer. The light's intensity grew brighter, responding to his call. He withdrew his hand and turned his eyes to Brianna, noticing her curious excitement. "This is what awaits you," Athenius replied, "for all that you have accomplished so far." He picked up the globe once more and held it out to her. Brianna hesitated, not knowing what to think about this curious object. She held out her hands, cupping them under his. Athenius placed the globe in her awaiting palms. It was warm, yet soft and light, not the cold, heavy weight she was expecting. Brianna put her face closer to it. The surface of the globe shined bright, but there was no reflection, just the opaque beauty and the purity it represented as it entranced her vision. The globe wiggled. Brianna pulled away, startled by the movement. Her hands began to shake as she could feel a small pulse emanating from inside the globe. With each beat, the globe began to grow. After a few seconds, it was twice the size it was before. The sides of it began pushing their way outwards. Brianna could feel the globe lift from her hands. She removed them, letting the morphing object float in the air as the white forms continued to stretch past the bounds of the sphere. Large, round edges emerged from the sides, as if fingers were reaching out from within its confines, spreading out from what was left of the rounded core. The centre of the object flickered, catching Brianna's attention. She stared at it, moving in closer to inspect. A wispy pair of eyes emerged to the surface, staring back at her. Brianna gasped. "Do not be afraid, Brianna," spoke Athenius. "She has revealed herself to you. Look, for you see the eyes of the Holy Ghost before you." Brianna continued to stare in disbelief. The object hovered before her, its extensions now reaching over the table's edges. The eyes watched her, waiting. Brianna sat in wonder. They did not seem malicious, nor were they looking to her in an opposing way. They were warm, welcoming, telling her within her conscience what they needed to say. "Do not fear, child. I am with you now." A peaceful serenity fell about Brianna. The eyes were talking to her, speaking to her mind. She nodded, acknowledging the words whispering to her. The eyes shimmered against the white surface as they softened, gazing at her like a mother would a child. Brianna saw that they were waiting for her, waiting for her to do something. "What must I do?" she asked, staring wondrously at the object. "You must embrace yourself. Take in that which you have earned." The words drifted through her, running up and down every part of her body. Brianna thought about the meaning. She could not tell what it meant as the eyes continued to watch her. Then she noticed. They were not someone else's eyes watching from within anymore, but her own eyes that were now looking back at her. She was watching herself. But how? How could she be? Then it occurred to her. Brianna nodded. She understood. Her joy leapt up through her heart and into her eyes as she rose from her chair. Wells of tears blurred her vision as she reached out and embraced the object before her. She pulled it close to her chest, holding it tight. The object responded, wrapping its outlying extensions around her as well. The outer extremities continued reaching around her, encompassing her as the mass began to shift. The centre of the object thinned, splitting into two as it moved around her body toward her back. As the white mass moved out of her arms, Brianna found her own arms wrapped around herself as the two white objects spread along her backside, gliding into position before finding their final resting place among the blades of her shoulders. Brianna closed her eyes. She could feel the objects becoming a part of her, melding with her being. They extended outward, spreading out toward the sides of the room. There was a ruffle and a flap as a cool breeze began to flow through the room. Brianna had felt that breeze before, long ago. Her backside stretched out as wide as it could, her arms now lifting up to the ceiling. Elation rose within the rest of her extended body, for never in the most sacred of dreams could she ever imagine the gift that was now bestowed upon her. Brianna rested, her arms lowering to her sides. Opening her eyes, she looked to what now awaited her. Her body quivered at the sight she beheld. It would take her days to fully appreciate what was now a part of her very being, as a pair of big, bright, beautiful wings spread out, fully expanding to each side of her. They twitched and ruffled, giving her the full sensation of the new appendages. "Magnificent," breathed Athenius. "The sight never fails to overwhelm me." Brianna turned to her teacher, the feelings of doubt and uncertainty now long gone, only to be replaced by feelings of joy and wonderment. "I don't know what to say," she gasped in awe. "It feels as if they are alive." The wings continued to ruffle, expressing her feelings of nervous excitement. "In a way they are," said Athenius. "They are a part of all that we hold dear in our hearts. They will guide and protect you for the rest of your existence. An angel's wings are one of the most recognized symbols in all of existence. With them, you now represent the higher standards of heaven and its authority. But remember this one thing, Brianna. As an angel goes, so do their wings. Treat them well. You have definitely earned them." Brianna laughed with joy. She could not believe it. Only through books and stories from a past life was such an idyllic image so worshipped and admired. Now it was a part of her eternal being. It was a reward unlike any other. From the holiest of holies was this gift of love from the Holy Host, an experience Brianna would never forget. The two angels waited in silence, observing what was going on in the universe. Uriah had been keeping an eye on Brianna, following her every move, yet not quite knowing what she was getting into. Darkness was a patient player in the ethereal game of good versus evil, waiting to see what she would do before moving the army of the dead. His objective was easy enough to follow: eliminate Brianna's hero and defeat the paltry resistance that was starting to gather. But how or when he would do it, even Uriah could not tell. She just could not see where it was all leading to. As it stood now, there was no way to overcome such an obstacle as the evil armada. The dark side was too powerful for what Brianna apparently had planned. Uriah just hoped she realized it. Brianna sat in silent anticipation, praying for things to work out for the better. It was as if the odds were stacking up against her the farther things went along. Still, she maintained some kind of hope that the situation was not as dire as it may have appeared. She had a few ideas of what to do in case things got too out of hand. Brianna played with caution, but well enough against such a cunning opponent. The red eyes of darkness glared back at her, as if trying to break her will with his oppressive stare. Each time he made a move, Brianna would counter. It was as if they were in a heavenly battle of chess, both sides moving their pieces into position to gain an advantage over the other. Every move that he made, Brianna could match. But even now, she could not see for how much longer. Brianna pulled her lower lip in and bit down. It was a habit she had found herself doing for as long as she could remember. The build-up within her was starting to reach its limit. A large sigh escaped Brianna as she tried to relieve her brimming anxieties. Uriah's eyes changed to soft velvet blue as she noticed the pressure her friend was enduring. She had never known Brianna to be this distressed before. The longer this bout went on, the more anguish she was falling under. Uriah focused on the small creases along Brianna's eyes as her life as an angel was starting to show. Or was she growing older? She could not tell. "Hey, are you okay?" Brianna closed her eyes, trying not to lose focus. Yet her heart would not let go of its fears. "I don't know," she replied. "I just cannot see what is going on here. I'm not sure why he wants to push his ships in that direction. Where are they going?" Uriah watched as the armada was heading toward an outward area, nowhere near Brianna's hero. Darkness was playing in a most peculiar manner, and they had yet to figure out the puzzle. She tried to picture the events around what was transpiring, but even she could not quite place that either. The forces of evil were on the move, but to where was anyone's guess. "I don't know either," confessed Uriah, who was also baffled. "It's as if they're trying to lure him away. But to where or why, I'm not sure." Brianna turned to her friend, relieved that Uriah could at least attempt to figure out something that she was not as good at. She was very grateful for the help as her anxieties ebbed, knowing that she could count on her support. The burning red eyes flashed at their hesitation, adjusting the pieces in play. Brianna watched his move as the evil ships were now travelling parallel to her hero, but in the opposite direction. Brianna turned to Uriah once again as she could not understand the logic. "Why isn't he following?" Uriah shook her head and then stopped. An idea came to her. She gasped with the shocking revelation, raising her hand to her mouth. She could see the direct path the ships were heading to, the place where Devin had just left. "Oh no," she cried. "He wouldn't." Brianna's startled gaze went back and forth between the image and Uriah, her heart now racing with worry. "What?" she asked in a panic. "What's happening?" "He's going to attack Alterra." Both of them scoured the universal image. Alterra's defences had spread thinly throughout the galaxy, searching for the enemy. There was no way they could recover to defend their planet against a mass attack in time. Uriah looked for the demon, but he was gone. Both of their worries began to rise amidst the newfound tactic as Brianna watched the surge of enemy ships heading toward the now vulnerable planet. A smaller group of ships pulled away from the main armada, their line of trajectory turning about, putting them on a direct heading toward her hero. They were setting up to be a diversion, and they were gaining upon their unsuspecting target. Brianna's nerves began to tingle. The course of action was now commencing, and things were not looking good at all. What do we do? Uriah watched the helpless planet that awaited its fate at the hands of evil. Her eyes narrowed in frustration. There wasn't much they could do. "If we can't help them, we can at least warn them," replied Uriah. "Send the Harbinger. Let them know they are coming." Brianna nodded, quickly calling upon an old friend. But for anything else, they could only pray.